שלום לכם, חברים, חברות יקרים.
Hello, dear friends. We're very happy to be with you once again here in this camera in our third Kabbalah lesson in this semester. Hello, Tal. Ladies first, excuse me, and hello, Moshe.
Hello.
And we really ask you to remember that the success of this lesson depends on how active you will be, how dynamic you will be, if you will participate with your questions, if you will send us. Everything is already open. Tara is here to accept your questions, and during the lesson we will answer as many questions as we can, which will be a part of the flow of the lesson. And in the end of the lesson we will try as always to answer more of your questions. And let's get started.
Let's get started by relating to the exercise that we received last time, and you earned them on the Facebook pages. There are a few languages we don't quite understand all over Europe, but we saw that the answers that you wrote down were very interesting. And also this exercise, if you remember, to see what is happening to with my desires, how different advertisements affect me on the TV, what desires people that are surrounding me have, etc. And also what you wrote down, your thoughts about what love is. These are very good things. It causes a person to think, what is activating me? I'm sure that many of you had very nice discernment. We also read some of the things, and it's good. We are beginning to write down things for one another, and together, you will see, we're beginning to create an environment, a very good environment that will also start affecting our thoughts, our emotions, our desires. That's it. So, let's have a summary of the previous lesson. All in all, what did we talk about? We talked about our possibility to receive pleasure in this life. What is the purpose of life? We saw that this is actually the purpose of creation, which is to receive pleasure and delight. However, the Creator has two small problems. What are they?
So his first problem is how to bring the creature, which is a deficiency, which is opposite from me, to be like me. If I'm the creator now, so how can I bring him to a state? If he was created opposite than me, how can he be like me? On the other hand, how can I fill him with endless abundance, infinite?
Instead that we have also his desire, his own desire, because if he won't want that out of himself, he won't feel the desire, he'll just remain in a little desire to get filled up, and that's it. Then we talked about the fact that the Creator develops the created being by two forces: the force of reception, which is the created being's desire, that's his nature, and the force of giving, which is the Creator's quality, the quality of giving, of bestowal, which fills up the created being. But the goal is, and that's very important, that the created being with these two forces will be able to scrutinize something new, his I, his self, his independent point. And that's the purpose of the whole of creation, because in that point he'll be able to reach equivalence of form fully with the Creator.
That is true. We will elaborate on that point during this lesson, and we will elaborate on that in the next lessons. But we're looking at humans' evolution, and we saw two very clear tendencies. One, the growth of the individual, of oneself, the ability of a person, of his ego, of his self, and the other development is the development of the mutual connection between us, of the interdependency between us, of our ability, which is very limited to operate independently because we're connected to all those parts, to the rest of the parts in nature. So this collision between these two tendencies, which grew bigger during history, led to a very big gap, which we see it now today as a crisis. We can see it in every aspect of our life, and that crisis, we want to solve it by the solution that the wisdom of Kabbalah offers. We started talking about it in the previous lesson, which is our ability to break down this chase, useless chase after the happiness and satisfaction inside this individual that goes throughout history, inside the ego, and to start turning its attention to fulfillment, satisfaction, and happiness in the connection, in the interdependency which exists between us, only we don't really know how to work with it because we're egoistic. And the Wisdom Kabbalah knows how to turn us around into a direction where we'll be able to turn those connections into useful connections instead of harmful connections.
Because inside this system of connections that has been revealed to us, there all the goods, all the abundance, all of the infinity awaits us, truly huge sources of happiness and pleasure, which that force wanted to give us. We need by ourselves to create a certain great desire, some very big deficiency, lack on the one hand, on the other hand, pleasure or fulfillment, but at one turn of the other. And the fulfillment, the pleasure, both of these are in a place which, unbelievably, is the system of connections between us. There, all this good will be revealed to us. So the way to discover these connections and how to feel it, we want to talk about that in this lesson. Because if in the end we're talking about the unity, the connection between us, which is the source for all pleasures, then we have to understand what connection is, or in other words, what is love. Short clip, and we'll come back.
טוב, אז מהי אהבה?
So what is love?
Whoa, you weren't ready for that. You guys are assuming I know what it is. No, actually I don't. I'm still searching.
You're still searching for it.
Still searching. Yeah. It's not simple.
Did the friends send us some answers trying to answer that question during the week?
Throughout the week, Moshe picked in the Facebook and he saw a few responses. Very diversified, very clever answers.
Because basically it really is true. This concept occupies us from the beginning of history. We're always looking for, longing for love. So many songs were written about love. So many tragedies happened because of love.
And in general, I'm saying, I love this piece of cloth. I love eating, give it some European dish.
The steak with the porcini.
Steak with porcini, yes, I love eating that. I love my wife. If my wife is watching, I love her.
Me too.
Who?
My wife.
Ah, your wife, okay.
And my child, I even brought a clip.
And we also love advertisements. We love many things. So the question is, what is love and are we capable of it? So Amit wanted to say a few words about it. He's a very capable director, producing wonderful series. Some of them were on TV. And through this, he expresses the most important message of connection. Here he shot his child. He did a clip of his child asking him, what is love? Let's watch that clip.
אבא, אני צריך לדעת שאתה אוהב אותי ככה סתם. אבא טוב. אבא, אני רוצה לחזור אליי, למצוא אותך שם איתי. במקור שלי אני טוב גמור, אבא, ושם אני מאמין בעצמי.
אז ביבו, מה אתה אומר? הדייג אוהב את הדגים?
כן, הוא אוהב אותם במאכל, אבל הוא לא אוהב אותם בלב.
Okay, that was a clip from a voyage I had in Israel for 6 months with my family in a caravan to find out how we can discover love between us. And this is a moment I had with my child, and I asked him, a fisherman, he likes fish or he doesn't? It's a classical question for kids. And I was surprised, and I wasn't surprised, because kids who grow up and are educated on the roads, they have this inner wisdom. It's one of the great benefits of the wisdom Kabbalah is to look at kids who are educated by the light of this path and how they look at the world so naturally in such a simple, pure, decisive way. And what he said, I think, reflects the thing of the definition of Kabbalists to what love is. So the child said, yeah, he loves fish, but he loves them in order to eat them. He doesn't really love them in his heart. So love, actually, as we know it in our world, and love in general, also my love to my child, I really, really love him, as you can see. He's very cute. It's a love inside this limited framework of the perception that I live in, which is called the will to receive. So this love is called by Kabbalists a love of fish.
It's a very nice story that reminds me of what Amit did, our Rav Lightman. One morning he came to his daughter, and there was a meal there with a fish. They ate a whole fish. So he asked her, do you love fish? And she said, of course I love fish. So if you love fish so much, then here, take the fish. He took the fish and said, kiss it. No, how come? So why do you say that you love fish? I love eating it. It's tasty. So what is this thing? We truly are right now in a reality that is called the will to receive. This is our reality. Through it we feel and love and want and are filled up. This is the reality. And Kabbalists write about it. Rav Baruch Shalom Ashlag Rabash, who is the teacher of Rav Lightman, writes the following. Since man is created with a kli, a vessel, called self-love, where one does not see that an act will yield self-benefit, one has no motivation to make even a tiny movement. And without annulling self-love, it is impossible to achieve dvekut, adhesion, with the Creator, meaning equivalence of form. That is, and we also talked about it in the previous lesson, all in all, we are simply a kli, a vessel, or a desire. A desire for what? What is it that we want? We want to receive. I think we need to replace the ink here, Amit. We want to receive love and pleasure. This is what we want to receive. And the formula is very simple. Maximum of pleasure with a minimum of effort. This is how we're built, and it is well known from all the experts in physiology and biology. This is how we act, we work, and that's fine.
We can see it on kids also.
True.
Someone who raises kids, you can see how a baby that is born doesn't really want anything. All he wants to do is to nourish, and with minimum effort he gets all the pleasure that he needs. And the more he grows, what grows in him? This body? No, the desire grows in him from within. And then he wants more and more pleasures.
By the way, it's amazing what you're saying about a baby, because scientists tried to identify the situation in which a person identifies the maximum pleasure. What did they discover? It's like a baby. When a person is lying down, in front of the TV, within his reach is all kinds of little snacks and things like that, and he's watching some movie or a football game, and it doesn't move like that. Turns out that this situation gives the maximum pleasure, maximum satisfaction. That's how we are.
We're on the World Cup series.
Yeah, the Mondial. So what is it that I love to receive? What do I love? I love this thing, whatever gives me the pleasure. It could be that I love pesto. Let's give it a form of spaghetti with pesto sauce. Meat, for example, loves... What do you love?
Coffee.
Well, meat loves coffee. Okay, here's a cup of coffee. Imagine that this is the coffee that Amit loves. I love some muscle builder, or I'm not going to mention his name, but what do we love in general? Something that gives me pleasure. What happens when it stops giving us pleasure? Let's say some connection, relationship we had with a girl that we were totally in love with, and suddenly it ended. She no longer loves us. It's done. We no longer love her or him, this guy. So that's how it is. This is our software. This is what we're capable of in our present desire. I love what fills me up.
There's a very delicate point here that we should pay attention to and to understand the essence of this limitation, because the love that we experience, or the pleasure and satisfaction that we experience inside the will to receive, there is nothing wrong about it. It's not something which is wrong. This is nature. And inside that nature, we have evolved into such a level of understanding humanity, some are aware of it more or less, that we're limited. We're very, very limited. No matter what happens, no matter what pleasure will come to us, or doesn't matter which kind of love I will experience, at some point it will start fading away, disappearing in every type and every manner. It will change its form, or I will have to work on it. But at some point we have to understand that it is limited. So we have this story that love in the will to receive is limited. And there are more problems of love in the will to receive.
The greatest problem is that if I love, and let's go back to that, to the sketch, if I say that I only love this thing that is felt in me as giving me pleasure, I have a connection with it. I wasn't planning to do it, but let's make this picture of a heart. I love it. I only feel this thing, meaning whatever gives me benefit. And what is outside of me, if I was able to feel other things outside of me, what does it mean outside of me? Outside of my self-benefit. Let's write it down. Self-love, outside of my self-benefit or self-love, I can't feel anything. That is my second limitation. So what happens then? If I, as a created being, have to reach a certain connection with the Creator, with the force of bestowal, with the highest, most quality, right now in my present state, I have no such connection. Why? Because I feel only what I receive from Him. You can give a very simple example. My son, he's 2 years old, Yaakov, he's still suckling, and I can see he runs to mommy and he says, "Mommy," and the second word he says is, the breast. He says zizi instead of tzitzi. It's like, so what is mother for him? My wife. A very mature woman with a career, with emotions, with many, many things. His connection, Yaakov, my son, with my wife, his connection is breastfeeding, just the breast. So all that he receives from her, warmth and love. On behalf of my wife, on the other hand, she is filled up with emotions towards him and love. She can see him as a mature person. She thinks about a million different things. But he, all he's saying is zizi, kind of a childish way of saying a breast in Hebrew. So we will always be limited through our will to receive, and it also limits our ability to love. And there is another problem with this.
And I think that Tal has a question.
Yeah, you guys are simply giving so many love over our viewers, and I want to give some back to you guys. We have so many people from so many places, and I want to give you back a little bit, so we'll give them an opportunity. For example, John from England is asking us, what is the difference between a pleasure which is what we call corporeal, physical, like coffee, you mentioned coffee, Amit, and a spiritual pleasure?
The difference, we spoke about it in last time. It's a qualitative difference more than quantitative. We feel the spiritual pleasure in a different kli. In a different kli. A kli which we build ourselves in a way where we implement the law of equivalence of form. We'll talk about it soon. But basically, at some point which does not exist in me, only its seeds exist in me. That seed is called the point in the heart. If we develop that place, that point, we make a kli out of it, which is called a vessel of bestowal, not a vessel of reception, rather a vessel that feels the infinite, eternal reality which is outside of me, and that is the pleasure that I feel. I don't feel the pleasure that comes to me that I want to observe that will shut me down at some point. It can be coffee, a woman, or anything in this world. Rather, this is a pleasure where I open myself up to a place where the abundance goes through me, and therefore it is endless, it is eternal.
Unlike the fulfillment that Amit receives through the coffee, what I receive through my coffee, that the moment I drink it, immediately I feel that I don't want anymore. The pleasure ends inside of the desire. Why? Because of this element that we talked about in the previous lesson, that the fulfillment quenches, turns off the desire. I'm filled up. I don't need it anymore. On the other hand, when the fulfillment, the object of the fulfillment is outside of myself, and in a way it reminds us of the example with the mother in our lives, all the more so, let him want as much as possible. Why? It gives you an opportunity to fill him up endlessly, and one doesn't turn off the other.
So Rosie from England is also asking, should we change internally in order to appreciate to appreciate what love is?
Apparently, yes. But let us also talk about it in the lesson, so wait until we give an answer. This transformation, we experience it, we begin it right now, all of us together, and we will talk about what is the nature of this change, thanks to what can it happen, how can we control this process, be aware of it. This is the whole essence of the wisdom of Kabbalah.
I think that there's nothing more fascinating which develops us more in our life than this concept of change. Look at kids. We see them change every second, every minute, and then more slowly, as if. But these are constant changes. And the more we grow up, we hold on to familiar patterns, to habits, and to the environment, and to all the patterns of our lives, and we're afraid of changes. But basically, a change is the source for our development and growth. Only we should understand that the change is not something that should break my life down or turn me into something else or a different life form or to put different clothings on myself. Really not. The change, as she asked very well, and Rosie already can feel that, is an inner change. It's a change in my attitude. It's a change that occurs within a person. And on the outside, perhaps we feel nothing. But on the inside, I open up like a flower. And Rosie, you will open up like a rose. And there you will see which tremendous world open up only inside of you. Is that it?
Another question. Maybe because we have so many guests from so many countries, they're asking, Martin from France is asking if love is natural or cultural? Is love natural or cultural? So where does culture come from? What is her name?
Martel.
Martel. Oh, okay, we're probably mispronouncing it, sorry, but... So, dear Mr. or Mrs. Martel, where does our culture come from? All the culture that we developed, even though it seems to us that we might be detached from nature and we're independent of nature's laws that have shaped us as the will to receive. Our culture also, and everything that we can imagine and depict and think about, it all stems from a single thing, from nature, from our nature. Yes, from our nature as created beings. They told me to look here, so I'm going to look there. Okay? And therefore, actually, we cannot speak about culture that is detached of what we are. When will we be able to develop a culture that is actually new, that is not dependent on any of the elements of the previous forces that shaped us? When we begin to discover a second nature, meaning that point in the heart that we have that is already capable of a connection with another, a culture that is totally opposite, a culture of love. In it, we'll start seeing that from the combination of these two forces, love or giving and reception, suddenly out of this thing will start growing a new culture of connections between us that did not exist before at all, not even in the thought of creation, something totally new. Well, the French people are known for their culture, and we will all together create that new culture.
Now, bottom line, Liliana from Argentina is asking, so if I love someone, is it because I need something from him?
That is exactly the question that I want to ask you, Amit.
12 points.
I want to ask you this question exactly. We are talking about the mother all the time, and our friend from Argentina is asking, so shouldn't they feel spirituality because they love? Mothers love, the mother loves.
That is true, and that relates to the previous question also. Basically, no matter how we look at it, if we look well at what Kabbalists out of their spiritual attainment, what they write to us about nature, about existence, then they tell us there is a will to receive. That is the only thing that was created, meaning all the love and the rest of the emotions that we have are necessarily felt inside the will to receive. There's nothing else except for the will to receive. There isn't any. There is the will to receive and the light that revives it, fulfills it, develops it, but everything is felt inside the will to receive, as long as we live inside the will to receive. The objective is to rise above the will to receive and to feel and to unite with the source which created that will to receive. Therefore, of course, love for a man or for a woman, love of a mother to her kids, my love to Albi, to my kids, to everything that surrounds me, it will necessarily be the kind of loves that serve within me some self-interest that I have, which is pleasure. I receive pleasure from it, and it's fine, it's perfectly fine, and it's natural. Nature created me this way, created the mother in such a way for her to love her baby or her infant, also offspring in the animate degree, so that she will protect him, raise him, and develop the creation in such a way.
And also, there are people in the world who are good, right? People who give, altruists. Kabbalah Course explains that 10% of the people of the world are altruists. So what about them? Is that love? They give, they want to help. And here, too, it's interesting because we're not talking about a negation of something that exists. In their sensation, they really want to give. They really want to help. I know many such people. The thing is that what is my intention? What is the end point? And we find out that my intention is that I do it because it makes me feel good. That's why I do it. There was an interesting program, I don't know if they have it in Europe also. There was a program in Israel called You Ended Up Being a Righteous. As if they check people's morality. And they sent a little kid who was wearing rags, kind of looked like really poor, wretched. He was walking around in Tel Aviv among the different restaurants, and he was looking at what people were doing. Suddenly, everyone started giving him money, and they let him eat. Everybody gave him all kinds of things. The famous Israeli food is pita with falafel. In short, everybody suddenly were so merciful. And I was asking myself for a long time, why? What is it that makes me want to give this child? Turns out that even inside of this, there is a mechanism. And they actually discovered this mechanism in Parma, in Italy. It's called mirror neurons. What does that mean, mirror neurons? I see Tal happy. There's a part in me that is happy like her. If Tal is suddenly sad because of something that happened to her, or she's watching some danger, out of my feeling of her, I feel the same. I'm being careful of the same thing, even without going through the same situation. How is that related to us? Because if I look at that same child and he evokes in me a similar experience that I also suffered from, I feel a certain suffering, and that suffering evokes in me an unpleasant sensation. I don't want to suffer. I really don't want to suffer. Oh, he's poor, he's wretched, it's better for me not to see it. So, here, take a dime, take a little bit of pita bread, take something and go away, just so I don't feel that you're, No, we're not even aware of it, but that is how we are acting. And it is the same at all the different levels. That is, it doesn't matter if I'm a total altruist or I just want to take away from everybody all day. The question is, what is the goal? And the purpose in all of these things is that I am enjoying it. That's the end point. But now all of this is not a problem. It's not a problem. The thing is that if we are talking about love and giving in our lives, then we don't really believe it anymore, do we, Amit? We don't really believe somebody who comes and gives us some great speech and he says to us, I love you, I just want to serve my nation. And, we know already that in the end it leads to other desires. We feel that this concept, this notion of love, it is done, it's bankrupt. So all of us here are searching, and the thing is that we want to discover our next degree, the next degree of love.
I think that at that point, we should clarify how we can do that, how we can implement it, how Kabbalists are leading us to that place. You want to ask something, don't you?
Yes, I wanted to ask a question that Merck from Poland is asking us about exactly what you talked about, this issue of love. It's so important because it is an altruistic quality, the most sublime quality.
It's not clear.
Why is love so important? Is it the greatest altruistic quality?
Yes, but as Moshe explained and as Kabbalists explain, we're talking about different concepts. In general, in the wisdom of Kabbalah, and we spoke about it in the first lesson, gradually through the wisdom, through what Kabbalists explain to us, we discover that we don't have to try too hard. Rather, gradually, through the study, something opens up in our emotions and in our mind, mainly in the perception of how I see myself and the world. And we start characterizing the concepts, our life, differently. The definitions change. Once I've defined love this way, today I define it another way. Therefore, love is the most exalted quality there is. It's the purified altruism, and everyone are talking about it, everyone are striving to it. The whole of humanity is aware of it, but in order to come to it, to live it and implement it, we really have to be there, and for that, to implement the principle, most essential law of nature, which the Wisdom of Kabbalah explains to us how we can implement it, the law of prevalence of form.
So, as an answer to Merck from Poland, let's really go in and learn about our root, our source, where the quality of love truly is. So, a short interlude and we'll continue. Right, so let's read again the quotation that we read before, and maybe it just passed us by the ear. Let's read it again now. After, well, some of us, we're stung a little bit. How come? There's no such thing as love. And by the way, all of these emotions that you get upset, how can you say such a thing and all of that? That's excellent. Let's scrutinize this. Because in the wisdom of Kabbalah, there's no such thing as true things. We just say it and that's it. Scrutinize it. Then we'll also give you an exercise again to scrutinize what love is. And we'll try to figure it out, because all of the advancement in the awareness of the people of things that Kabbalists say is done only through awareness on behalf of a man. Whatever I know, that is the truth. So let's read the quotation again. Since man is created with a vessel called self-love, where one does not see that an act will yield self-benefit, one has no motivation to make even a tiny movement. And without nullifying self-love, this mechanism, it is impossible to reach adhesion with the Creator, meaning equivalence of form. So let us, like in every lesson, go back to the level of the roots. And let's first of all ask, how is it even possible to speak about love? Each one has his love, right? I think that love is this way. You wrote a lot of lines about love in relation to what do we measure it, how do we scrutinize it.
So Kabbalists explain it with relation to what they have discovered as infinite reality, as something which they defined as the absolute goodness, the thought of creation. This is the place where we as created beings has to reach, and that place is called the thought of creation. It is called the world of Ein Sof. It is called Keter. It is called Shoresh, root. There are many names to it. In the wisdom of Kabbalah, there are many names. But actually, the essence itself is one. There is this root, one single source, whose entire essence is good. And Kabbalists have united with that essence, with that root. And from that place, this is where they measure things. Like Moshe drew, and Sof is our root. From that place, as we spoke of in the previous lesson and in the first lesson, we actually start seeing the development of creation. We have a created being which was created, which is matter, which is the will to receive, which is something negative, seemingly like the minus force that only wants to absorb into itself. And there's the light, which is the same fulfillment, the same abundance that comes out from that very essence called the thought of creation. These two forces, Kabbalah, reception, which is the will to receive, and Hashpa'ah, bestowal, which is the light, these are the only two forces that exist in nature, and they start developing the entire creation on all its levels, still vegetative, animate, and speaking.
Where the purpose is, and I'll draw the different degrees here also, because the degrees are inside of the created being, inside of the will to receive. The goal is one, that through all of these relationships, reception, which is the nature of the will to receive, and giving, that I want the quality of the Creator, the connection with Him, and the fulfillment itself, and my lack, whatever I'm lacking, all in all, the Creator doesn't want to just fill up the created being. He doesn't want to just create a deficiency that he will lack something. What he wants is that through these two forces, the created being will reach something new. That the created being will be above them while using them. He'll start developing a relationship with the Creator through all of these degrees, 125 degrees, until he'll reach a full connection with the Creator. What does a full connection with the Creator mean? To be like Him. To discover Him means an absolute, total dvekut, adhesion with the Creator. That will be the future self, I, of the created being. As Amit is sketching here, as we remember, the created being goes through the system of the worlds. Here he's shifting between two systems. Maybe you can make a cut here. You'll learn what the tabur is, the middle point. We have an upper system, which is the system of giving. Here Amit is going to divide it into two. These are the first of Sfirot. We'll talk about all of these things. And we have the lower system, which is the system of reception. And the created being goes down and cascades from the upper system, in which he has a connection with the Creator. He feels the qualities of the Creator. He wants to be like Him. And thus he gradually descends into a system that is more and more under the rules of reception, until at the very final level, he feels only himself. And he can't feel anything more than that. That is, that other system of connections is being hidden, concealed from him. Here we are all in absolute connections of love, just like cogwheels or cells in the body. Gradually that feeling disappears until down here I feel myself as Moshe, let's say. Being an egoist, I write down my name. Down here I feel myself alone in this world with other people around me, but I have no connection to these people. And as we said, the goal is that from here on we will start developing our understanding about the nature of the force of love.
So basically, if you marked it yellow, where's the yellow here?
Should I interrupt you guys with a question? Or?
Yeah, ask a question.
So there's a name that I cannot pronounce from Italy. Sorry. The Creator is something that I have no feeling of, and I can't really grasp him. I can't say that I enjoy him or I don't enjoy him. So how can I love him? A fantastic question. What are we going to do about it? Answer it now, or give us a few more seconds. Try to pronounce the name incorrectly, and I'll fix it. I'll correct it.
Marcello.
Marcello.
No, not Marcello. Something else.
Okay, something along these lines. I want to add one more thing in the meanwhile, that the created being, that Moshe or John or whomever, even when he's down here, under the concealment of all of these degrees, we, all of us, are still under laws which are laws of nature. If you remember that order of roots and laws that is working along this whole system, what are the laws that he is under?
What we drew here. So basically we can see it very clearly from the root. If we have two forces, as we said, that come from one source, there's one force that creates that kli here, that vessel, which becomes our nature, the reception force. And there's another force, the force of bestol, the force that fulfills the kli, nourishes it, develops it, and gradually disappears from it, comes out, departs from it more and more, until we reach a state where in our world, and we spoke about it in the first two lessons, we're in a world where we can only feel one force, the reception force. Receive, we wrote it down. Now, what about the other force, this force which we drew here in yellow? What? It doesn't exist? How can it be it doesn't exist? Of course it exists, only it is concealed from us. It is concealed from us, but only from us, from human beings. Why? As we said, so that from this concealment, we will be able to try and imitate it, to build it, to draw it anew by ourselves, and this way to come to that force which is called the Creator, which created deliberately that concealment for us, the still vegetative and animate. Instinctively, they feel those two forces, both the force of bestowal and giving and the force of receiving. And if we look at nature, without the human species, let us look at nature, the still vegetative and animate. It's perfect. Everything is harmonious. It's infinite impression. This is why it fulfills us so much.
The lion doesn't eat the dough just because he feels like chewing something up. He'll eat it, whatever he wants, and then leave the rest. You know, you can walk by him if he's full. He won't come and do anything to you. He's not going to come to the deer and tell her, you know, hi, you see, it was so much fun to eat you, you know, chew you or bite you on the leg, right? So we are under three influences that you can speak about. One, we are obligated to live a social life from the very beginning. This is how we develop. This is actually our arena in which we discover ourselves, our relationships, the upper force, everything. Inside of this arena, well, as Amit said, we have the rules of reception, which I'm familiar with. I know what's going to happen if I won't breathe or eat or live a family life. That's a must for my survival. I feel those things. If I won't do them, immediately I feel the outcome, the results. What happens with respect to the rules of bestowal? They're hidden. So it turns out that as if I can do whatever I want in society, deceit, steal, cheat, as we can see in some of the people in our world that belong to, you know, some part of society. Well, not all of them, but some. So I don't feel that I'm being harmed by this, not immediately. And also the result, the consequence doesn't reach me directly. All the more so, many times we see that these people are actually successful, and the consequences are actually manifested in everybody else, in all the other parts, the other people. So it's not felt that as if I'm burning my own hand or my head or whatever. We don't have a feeling of the forces of bestowal. So if we want to feel these things, because a cell in the body that is working against the body, it's no longer a normal cell, it's a cancer cell, right? That's the situation that we all feel now in the crisis. So we have to rediscover the spiritual system, rediscover those two forces. We need to find out how through them we start creating a system that will allow us to feel the Creator. Questions?
Yeah, there are three questions, similar questions about probably unconditional love. Isabel from Madrid and Mark from Poland and Josephine from Spain are asking whether the fulfillment, the real fulfillment, is an unconditional love. Yeah, we are very impressed from your questions. Again, they indicate how ready and developed souls you are. The wisdom of Kabbalah takes a person and teaches him how to discover the greatest pleasure. Excuse me for saying that, but I will say that anyway. And it teaches him to discover that the greatest pleasure is not in the fulfillment, rather in the lack, in the deficiency. Why? Because the lack, the deficiency is eternal. If I have a constant deficiency, there is something that fulfills it, and I make sure to develop the correct deficiency, and I have the knowledge and the connection, confident, certain connection to the fulfillment, then all I have to work on is the deficiency, and actually that's the only thing I need to work on. I'm able to receive. Therefore, if I can develop in me love, meaning what is love, we will define and discuss it. Furthermore, it's a will to receive some deficiency. Then we will give up infinite pleasure.
And I'll give another hint to, was it Josephine or?
Yeah, of course.
I'm going to give another hint because we're going to touch it. I don't want to just love and to love unconditionally. How did he say it? A man is created with a kli, a vessel or receptacle called self-love. And it's for a reason that we were created this way. We really need to discover infinite and endless pleasure and love. The question is, where is this vessel in which I'm going to feel it? Is it in me or is something that is outside of me, where one doesn't turn off the other? And even more than that, what is the reason that obligates the created being to reach a certain absolute infinite love? We talked about that. We want to reach dvekut, adhesion, and an absolute connection with our root. That just like the Creator is the force of bestowal, absolute giving, when I reach that, and you can call it the branch that comes out of the root, out of that we feel pleasure, the abundance, eternal abundance, and that's a root, that's what we want to reach. So after we talk about the upper system, the whole question, the entire question we have is how to reach a feeling of that system. How do we use this mechanism called, it's a strange name maybe, equivalence of form?
Excellent question.
Thank you.
I see that you really had three questions, but
we want to talk about love. So Lucia from Italy is asking us, Lucia is asking...
It's light, right?
Lucia, how can I discern if the love that I'm giving others, is it egoistic or not?
To keep on studying the wisdom of Kabbalah, and then the light will shine and will show you exactly what the answer is. We gave her a hint in the beginning of this lesson, and we said that even love of a father or mother to their kids and love of people whom we see that are very merciful and they really like helping others and to fulfill the deficiency, the lack of every hungry child, this is still a love that from within, inside of it, satisfies the will to receive. There's nothing wrong about it. It's not that it is not love, but we should try and depict it more and more. If I'm chained and am inside this bubble and I'm programmed to only observe pleasure from the environment, so I observe a pleasure from the environment every possible way, including by giving. Okay? We will keep discussing it, but let's talk about the equivalence of form.
Still, one other word to Lucia, because, she's from Italy, and you know how much I love Italy. So, the thing is as follows. What Amit said, it's very important, this principle of learning, studying. Even in the first lesson we said, read it and pass it through you as much as possible. Articles of Kabbalists that you can find in our website, as much as possible. Rav Leitman says it's like in a meat grinder. After that, you will see that new discernments will develop in you, and an abundance of emotions, and suddenly your awareness will grow. I'm this person, and suddenly I start thinking, gosh, I don't know how to translate it. I'm starting to think, I look at this person, and I look at each and every person. I'm actually looking through a box of what can I get out of him. And there are many other discernments that suddenly open up in you. And when you have this awareness, suddenly there's also a motivation to grow, to develop, a motivation to discover, all right, I want to reach true love. I want to reach a true connection. I can't just remain where I am. So the study is the key to that change that will take place in me. In order to reach all of that, we have to understand, having talked about the upper system, that our role is to discover it and to feel it. Let's go down to our lives and let's see. So, what is this mechanism through which we can feel that upper system? We can discover it.
Shall we read the quote? This is something Baal HaSulam wrote from the introduction to the book of Zohar. So reading from Baal HaSulam, introduction to the book of Zohar, item 8. When two people love each other, you should say that they cleave to each other in one body. When two people love each other, you say that they are attached to one another as one body. And when they hate each other, you say that they are as far from one another as the east from the west. But there is no question of nearness or remoteness of location here. Rather, this implies the equivalence of form. When they are equal in form and each loves what the other loves and hates what the other hates, they love each other and are attached to one another. And if there is some disparity of form between them, and one of them likes something that the other hates, then, to the extent that they differ in form, they become distant and hateful of one another. And if, for example, they are opposite in form, and everything that one likes the other hates, and everything the other hates is liked by the first, they are deemed as remote as the east from the west, meaning from one end to the other. It moves me so much to read those words of Baal HaSulam again and again. As Moshe mentioned about the study, we deal with the wisdom of Kabbalah for many years, and every time when we learn and read it, then every time anew we can discover new whole worlds. It is so profound, it is so whole and complete. It is simply the truth, it's a law. And we're going to explain this law of equivalence of form.
There's great curiosity here, you should know.
About what?
About what you're saying. From England and also from Romania, we have the question of how then is it possible to feel this system? How can we, how is it possible to feel this thing that you're talking about?
I want to tell you, dear people, that you probably participated with me and Moshe when we worked on the lineup for this lesson, because these are the next steps in this lesson.
Right, so let us now learn the most fundamental law.
Before how we feel, let's speak about the law.
Yeah, because that will help us understand the whole system. What Baal HaSulam is talking about is something very simple. Well, not really that simple, but the law of equivalence of form. He's saying something very simple. How is it even possible to have a connection between two people, two systems, between two different frequencies? How is it possible to have a connection? So he is talking about equivalence of form. Maybe we'll draw it in the most simple manner. We have two circles. This could be two people, two frequencies, doesn't matter. The moment that there is complete disparity of form between them, you can see, as Baal HaSulam says, there's no contact between them. The more they come closer to one another, let's say here there begins to be a single point of contact right here, then in that point they are connected, they're identical, and they understand one another. And it can be any two systems, frequencies. If it's on the radio, then instead of not hearing anything, you start hearing this and half a word when you reach that frequency. And of course, the more these two circles come closer, here is created that overlapping, that shared area, an area where they understand one another. And Baal HaSulam even says they love one another. He doesn't just, talk about. So the created being, if we're talking about equivalence of form, something very simple emerges out of this law. First of all, we have to realize that this law, where does this law come from? Who invented this law? Did they pass that law in parliament, or what is that law? There is the quality of bestowal. The root, the creator, his desire is to benefit his creations. Remember, we talked about the order of the roots and branches. From that, a law is derived that in order to receive the benefit, the created being has to be like the creator. He has to be loving and giving and bestowing like him. From that comes the law of equivalence of form. So if the created being, if we want to be in contact with the creator, to have a certain degree of overlap with him, from the greatest degree, which are really two circles that completely overlap one another, we have to start developing our qualities so that from complete disconnection, as in the top, as we are now, we want to really become like the creator. When the two of us are completely equal, I'm going to draw it with this strong red color, symbolizing the quality of love. One more thing. Baal HaSulam doesn't talk about two people that, Amit loves, I don't know what.
Sushi.
And I also love sushi, and Tal also loves, let's say, billiards and sushi, and we all, we like reading Tolstoy, Gogol, who else?
Pushkin.
Russian languages.
You went for the Russians.
We're also French.
Sartre,
Camus, okay? So, if all of us like the same things, this shows that there is a certain equivalence of form between us and we feel close to one another. But the thing is that Baal HaSulam is not talking about hobbies. He's talking about the fact that the moment that people like him, who have points in the heart, start changing our qualities, start changing the form that we give to our desires into the form of giving and a corrected connection with whatever is outside of me, those that surround me, to that extent, we begin to feel one another. That is, I'll give an example in a second, and also to feel the upper system. So let's say if Amit was living in Australia, and I was living on Mars, doesn't really matter in our reality, but both of us have the same degree of bestowal and giving, to a certain extent, towards some of the others, and also Tal, who's actually on planet Venus. Huge distances between us, it doesn't matter. The moment that we are in the same degree of giving, we understand one another, we feel one another in a way that is really, we're living the emotions, the thoughts, and the awareness in terms of the upper world of one another. This thing, and you'll talk in a minute, I'm going to draw that field that we're all in.
Keep on drawing. So why is it like this? Because basically, and we will remind it again and again and again, because it will take time till you understand it. Everything that was created very well was the will to receive. Meaning we are pieces of a desire. We will elaborate on it more in a few lessons. But it's not that there is tal such and such kilograms, such and such hair, and a meat such and such kilograms with such and such eyes like Moshe. Rather, what we have here are desires which are in a force field, which Moshe is now drawing. We're all desires on different levels of development. Desires on the speaking level, which is us, the animate desires, vegetative and animate desires. But the speaking desire, they have the ability to connect between in a new level of awareness, and that level of awareness is called the level of spiritual, godly level of the Creator. How to connect between them? To connect between them like the Creator connects with them. Only what? He is concealed. So they need to build it by themselves once again. Meaning, because we are emotional creatures, and because our whole essence is in our emotion and intellect, in our mind, and eventually also our senses are an interpretation of our mind and emotion. They come to be in our emotions and in our intellect. So there is no distance, and if you have people whom you love overseas and you love them, as Bala Sulam says, there is no distance. And if I hate someone, he can be my neighbor. I can't stand him. He lives next door to me. But the distance between us is millions of kilometers. So everything here is a question of attitude. And this attitude is the bottom that changes the tuning in this radio receiver, with which we have to come to an equivalence of form with the upper frequency, which fills up the entire reality. Only now we are tuned once again to ourselves. And if we will know how to tune the right button to the attitude between us by the wisdom of Kabbalah, the light, the friends, this whole method, then basically we will be able to discover that we're already in an enlightened, complete, infinite reality.
I want to give a very simple example before we let Tal ask additional questions. Here at the center of this force field is the Creator, the root that is pulling all of these X's, all these pieces of desire towards the center. And that's why what happens is, how do we suddenly feel one another? Because we're in some Facebook, or because we're all taking some Kabbalah course? How come we have some contact? Let's say Amit and myself, between us, with Tal, with Rav Leitman, and with you. How come there's contact between us? Why? Because in all of us the same desire starts forming. So you can say that all of us, for example, are in this circle. Okay, so we're all in this circle and we start feeling one another.
Color it in yellow.
Okay, I'll fill it up with yellow. Okay, we have red and yellow. Whoops. That's the eraser, sorry. Okay, that's nice. Okay, so we are here. And then we start feeling one another, that same desire. I have an environment with other people in it. I see John there, and Josephine, and Lucia, and other people. Maybe I don't feel them right now, but you'll see that gradually we will start feeling between us something very special. Very, very special. And the more we advance towards this field of a reality of love and bestowal towards the Creator, we will start feeling that strong sensation more and more. And out of that, the more we increase the relationships of giving between us and of love, out of that we will start feeling ourselves as a single part, as a shared soul, all interconnected. And in us we will start feeling this reality, or a part of this reality, of the upper system. That is all. Equivalence of form, all in all, is an instrument, like with radio waves. I tune myself to the right wave and suddenly, whoa, I feel, I hear, well, it's really that way that the Kabbalists tell us. Well, I can feel Kabbalists, so much so. We will start feeling phenomena that are a little bit outside our normal range of perception. And I'm just telling you that so you have something to aspire to.
Beyond those senses.
Yes, exactly. The question that John from England just asked us, how can I really feel what another person is feeling?
Nice, nice. And that brings us to the question, how do we implement that law? We spoke about the theory, about the mechanism of creation. If there's a field of bestowal that created a will to receive, but that field of bestowal is not filled by the will to receive in the human, in the speaking level, and now that desire needs to equalize with the light into that field of bestowal, as we can see here, to equalize with it as much as it can. How do we do that? How do we do that? The secret or the key, according to John's question, we can feel it. Is it among people, among us? We said that the Creator is actually revealed in the connection between us, that the whole problem is in the relationship between us. Now, a person has to live a social life, he doesn't know how to, and if he arranges something there correctly, there he finds the Creator. So, Moshe, can we find the key here in order to implement the equivalence of form?
Well, we're going to have a short interlude and we're going to talk about it soon. All right, from me to we to one, right? Look, it's amazing. After so many years, thousands of years, that we've gone through, from the time that we were all in a single Babel, in the same furnace, small village. From there, we spread into all kinds of directions all over the world. We searched for so many methods of how to feel the upper root, to be the one, to be the loved ones, to be more than everyone else. We did everything, but out of what? Because these are really qualities of our root. Love, being unique, being independent, being the one that is more the upper system. But how do we do it? Inside of our own system called the will to receive. We tried and tried. Each one as an individual tried to look for it by himself at the expense of others. And following all of these years, again, we're shutting it into a single global village. It's simply global. It covers the whole world. It's a single village. It is a system of connections, which is amazing, maybe even scary, that I depend on everyone. I don't only depend on everyone. We are really in a situation now. Rav Lightman once talked about it, and he said, imagine that each one, well, 7 billion minus one, only except for me, they're all holding my oxygen faucet, and they can shut it in for me, and I and everyone else can hold, are responsible for the oxygen flow of every individual. And that's the situation now, but we don't feel it. So we need to come to the understanding, to the awareness that maybe instead of running away from that system of connections between us, maybe following all of these years, the answer is actually all the pleasure, the answer, the infinite abundance is all there, hidden in those relationships between us. Maybe the answer is there, so maybe we should learn about it. Also because of this crisis that is really obligating us at all levels to find it, even at the level of this life. Look at all the people that you know in Europe. At the level of this life, we have to find an answer for how to reach connection. So we want to find the answer of not only how to reach connection, but also how inside of that connection to discover the root, the Creator, but from the side of the system of bestowal, the corrected system.
So what's going on here? We have life that we well know in our world, this life, which are our social life. This is where we are. Here is each and every one of us. But as we know, also from our life and from what Kabbalists explain to us, actually the connections between us, and this is our nature, this is how we develop, there are connections of exploitation, of an ego. These are not connections of bestowal. There is no equivalence of form between us, meaning everyone just wants to exploit everyone else as much as possible, or to profit, or to receive fulfillment, or something from someone else, right? This is how it goes. You understand what I mean, right? So from here we can see, only from this diagram, some phenomenon which is well known to us from the animate world. If we're talking about a whole system, Nothing else was created except for one whole desire. And there are parts here who wish to receive on the expense of other parts. So like in a living organism, we have a phenomenon where one cell or a group of cells starts resisting the whole of the living organism and to want to receive on the expense of other cells. So medicine calls that phenomenon that it gives it the terrible and a very unpleasant name, cancer. This is the state, this is the human illness that we have because we develop, and we're not guilty. This is how we were created into a state where we eat each other more and more and more. We devour each other, we eat nature resources, the still, the vegetative, the animate. We destroy with our very own hands this planet. It's not that cancer gains something, it kills the living organism along with itself. And we don't want to reach that. Rather, what we want to correct, and this is called to correct it, and this is called the correction of creation. I see you want to say something.
I just want to read a quotation and then you'll continue. Because we really want to scrutinize how to invert it, how to reach love, true love, connections with the Creator. So Bala Sulam writes in an article which is called From Love of People to the Love of the Creator. When a person reaches love of others, with that he is perfected with love of the Creator and giving bestowal to the Creator, contentment to the Creator. And there's no difference between the two of them, because everything that is outside of one's body, meaning outside of self, of his self-interest, is judged equally, whether it is to bestow upon one's friend or bestow contentment upon one's maker.
Pure delight.
Can I interrupt?
Yes.
I'll interrupt you with all these beautiful questions.
There's a very delicate point here. You mentioned the word bestow, and Doa is asking from Hungary, so what can I give a person whom I love? So beautiful, so beautiful.
This is amazing. He's really preparing us for the next...
This is why I disturbed you.
So look, guys, the upper system, as Amir is now sketching for us, is an integral system. It is a complete whole system of connections of complete giving and love. Only in such a system can the upper force be revealed, the force of giving. We are all connected just like cells in the body. Truly, we are under absolute laws of bestowal. But we, and Amit is drawing in the meantime, if we could make another small circle a few degrees below that, here I'll do it, as a parallel, think that this is diagonally in 3 dimensions, right? This is the upper world here, and down here is our world. And down here we also have connections, just like in the upper world. These are absolute ties, connections. So this system, if I'm down here, it has to be in such a way that it's not that I receive for myself, but every part in this structure, we can also call it a soul, neshama. On purpose I'm writing it in Hebrew, neshama. This is our neshama, our soul. The correction is that if every part, and I really want to sketch it, has to pass the light to others, that is his role, it's his function. He doesn't pass it to himself. He doesn't even have to connect his individual connection with the Creator. Rather, everything that needs to be corrected right now, when we see it in the upper system and also in us, is the correction of the connections between us, where every part is responsible to pass on to the other parts the light. Now, what does light mean? What is this thing? Or, in Hebrew, light. It's an abstract word, so what should it pass?
So basically, if we're in that system, as we can see it here, it is based in our life, as we know, on the connections of the ego. So the principle, and the only thing that we need to do between us is to generate some motion, emotion between us, also on the level of the relationship between us, also in the internal level. A human broad nation social motion, because we live a social life, a motion whose all inclination is to correct the relationship between us mutually, like towards that upper force, this comprehensive law of utter love that created us, that bestows upon nature, which Kabbalists have attained. And they tell us that if we will correct the relationship between us, we will be able to equalize with that upper force. And that is actually the answer for John's questions. No, Dora, then also John before. How do we implement the law of equivalence of form? So basically, it's a natural question. Hold on a minute. If the Creator, that law, is absolute love, then I love Him.
Well, you love me?
Yeah, He loves me, He hugs me, and I'm communicating with Him.
No, He loves me more.
No, He loves me more.
No, we're going to check that.
No, you.
Oh, He loves you more. Huh, Tal?
Done. So there's a problem here. How can we measure it? He loves me, yes, He loves me not. How does He love me? Does He truly love me? He doesn't love me. There is no contact. He's concealed. It's a complete concealment. But like a good parent, father or mother, He did it for His kids to grow. He disappears in the kid's emotion. Of course, He fulfills the entire reality, that force, but He lets His kids grow. How? He puts them in a laboratory, which is called this world, this wonderful laboratory of our life. And there He tells people, He tells His kids, connect among yourself in a good relationship. I will teach you how. I will explain to you. I will help you. Here, Kabbalists will draw it for you. They will bring you the whole method. Do what they tell, because they have already achieved me. This is what the Creator says. And eventually, if you will correct the relationship between us, what will you discover here in the middle? And you can go back to that other drawing and fill it up with yellow.
Oh, that's what I want to explain.
You will discover the connection between you, that absolute field of bestowal, which we spoke of.
That is, how do we do it? What is equivalence of form? Very simple. If we go back to the definition of Bala Sulam, that two people love one another, if we start connecting between us in connections of love, which is what the wisdom of Kabbalah teaches us, what is love? We're going to scrutinize it in a minute. I'm not sure that I need to say to Amit, oh, I love you, give you money, and maybe I'll buy a new wardrobe for Tal. No, there's something very special here, but it's clear that if we learn how to connect between us through unity, Kabbalists tell us that immediately that field will work in us, because we are like a certain radio frequency or a radio receiver. The moment we connect, I start grasping, perceiving the influence of the Creator on us, bestowal. We get that bestowal.
And that is called revelation.
Yes. So in that place, say Amit and I connected here, and let's say we connected with Rosie, and here with Lucia and with Tal. In that place, in the connection between us, we start feeling special phenomena, something that is of the upper world, a certain degree which is of that other world. We are really drawing, inviting the influence of the upper force of the Creator in us. Then what happens? What happens is that the connection between us in itself, not me, Amit, Tal, but the connection between us that we all feel, it becomes the place for the revelation of the Creator, that kli, that vessel, that instrument, that sensation which is outside of my own self-fulfillment. What can I gain? What can I benefit out of Tal and Amit? And rather in the shared giving. It's like a circle that is in between us, where we are all equal and we want to benefit one another. There we start feeling the Creator. And the more we increase and extend that bestowal and that connection to others, to Sharon, who's on the camera, and Rotem sitting back there,
and Yoram on the monitor,
and many other friends. We have 2 million students all over the world. and many, many students in Italy, in Spain, in England, Argentina also. So the more we extend and increase and spread that corrected network of connections, through more and more degrees, we discover our soul, and there we discover the Creator. That is all. So the question is actually, what can I give? What is that love that we're talking about? What, should I hug you? You'll slap me, and I'll say, slap me here also. What is this thing?
That is exactly the very delicate point which the wisdom Kabbalah brings us to. It can seem very complicated, but you should always remember, as Rav Lightman always reminds us, practically it is very simple. It is so different and opposite, but it is simple. There are two forces, two essence in creation, the will to receive and the will to bestow, a vessel and a light, kli and or, and that's it. And whenever you're confused, you should always come back to that. Meaning, what do I give? If I'm entirely a will to receive, do I have anything I can give? What can I give? I can give abundance? How can I give abundance? If all I want to is receive, meaning inside the will to receive, in 100% I can give. I'm a will to receive 100% of it. Obviously, I can't give anything. So where can I give? Because if I can give, there is no equivalence of form. There is no equivalence of form, so where can I give? Inside, now it is a seed, but inside what we develop in our point in the heart. If we didn't have that, we wouldn't have had an ability to reach an equivalence of form. But that fact that from the very thought of creation, everything is planned so perfectly that we have such special reshimo, such a desire, which is a godly part from above. It is a fragment of our soul, the one whole soul in which we live, only we don't feel it. If I take that broken fragment, which is now wrapped with ego, and I start developing it, to identify with it, to give it water. How? In the study of Kabbalah, in the right connection with my friends, with the light, and so on. So I actually know how to start and see through it, the world differently, as if I put on new glasses. This is what happens. And then I discover that I can give. It's not that I give, rather it is my will to receive, which was a will to receive. I now turn it into a will to bestow, meaning I turn myself from ratzon to tzinor. These are the same letters in Hebrew. I turn it from a desire to a pipe. I identify with the point in the heart, as Moshe drew very nicely, and now the abundance doesn't block me down, rather it flows through me to you. So I have something to give, but only as a pipeline, only as a gateway, like a mother who gives all her abundance to her child. She feels, of course she feels, it goes through her. Even more so, she feels twice as much because she receives the pleasure of the child also. So everyone, I can be a pipeline for him and to give it, to pass him even more to this place of abundance. I'm being filled up even more, 7 billion times more. In the Wisdom Kabbalah, it is called 620 times more. It's infinite.
And this is the reason for which we were created with these two forces, reception and giving, bestow. And we, with the point in the heart, which is the beginning of the soul, this is something that comes out of me. You see, here, it is something that comes out of me to the outside. We can connect with this to everyone. What does it mean to connect? What does it mean that I connect to more and more and more people, that I start feeling you? What is this connection? This means that I start feeling what you lack. In the beginning, I feel it with people who are like me, people who have the point in the heart. What you lack, following all of these years of searching, of looking for the meaning of life, of these burning questions, what you lack is one thing, the revelation of the Creator. And if I know that you lack this thing, and I begin to feel with my point in the heart, I can start feeling you and your deficiency, your lack. I start wanting to fill it up. What is it like? It's like a mother and a baby. There are also like a system. The mother has the ability to feel the deficiency of the baby, and the baby has his deficiency, his lack. And suddenly the mother lacks to fill up the baby. And out of that, she starts connecting with him with love. She feels what he or she are lacking, and by filling him up, she herself is filled up with what? With his pleasure. So what does the mother want? That the baby will lack nothing? Or that he will lack? What do you think? Mothers, Tal, what do you say? That he will lack nothing, the baby, or that he will have a lack?
As long as he has a mom, he will never lack anything.
That is, if he's lacking, all the better. Here I am, just let me fill him up more and more and more. And his pleasure grows and my pleasure grows. That is, we need to feel and to learn how to feel each other's deficiencies.
Actually, we cannot connect to each other without deficiencies.
No, we can't, and that's the meaning of these two forces. But in this whole playground that we have here of deficiencies and fulfillments, etc., we do it only for a single purpose, because inside this thing, inside this system, we want to discover a single thing. The center of this system, I don't know how to draw it even. Maybe I'll make a symbol here of infinity, and we'll name it Boré, in Hebrew, creator. I'll go to an earlier sketch. Which one? This one?
Here inside this yellow, is this yellow? This is in the corrected connection. We start discovering this whole field where we all operate in. And how do we do that? We do it by simply working with our points in the hearts, in such connection of bestowal. The relationship that we build towards each other on top of the natural relationship or attitude of receiving and exploiting each other. On top of it, how do we do that?
So, the most sublime thing that I can give Amit is not another iPhone or food or charity. Of course, just like the cells in the body, Amit's necessity has to be maintained. But because his purified, sublime deficiency is to discover the quality of his soul, to discover the Creator, if I connect to him through the fact that I want to fill him up, and he also feels my deficiency and he wants to fill me up, and both of us feel the deficiency of both of all of you, of the students, and we very much want to fill it up. It's a huge deficiency of all of Europe. I don't know how to say it. All the different countries that are so separated, torn apart, the different cultures. Suddenly we have an opportunity that above all of these things, there are students doing in Europe, which are thousands, tens of thousands of students. They're uniting. And suddenly there's no difference of language or mentality or anything. There's a single culture. And that's an answer for Mattel maybe. There's a single culture. The culture of the point in the heart. The culture of connection. The culture of love.
The language of bestowal.
The language of bestowal. Through that we start feeling one another. And we start feeling very special things. And this way also it is with all of my parts in which the point in the heart has not yet been manifested. Through this point, I can feel any person, doesn't matter. She wants clothes and he wants better education for his children, and this one is lacking diapers, and he wants that they'll fix the sidewalk, and he wants to be a mayor. Doesn't matter. We start feeling that in all of these things there is really a deficiency towards one thing only, connection. And the moment that we show it to them and we purify that deficiency and we say, come on, let's strip all of these curtains, because everybody's crying about, oh, we're under a shadow, all we see is darkness. So when we move that curtain aside, suddenly, look, there is light there. What is that light? We lack connection. Let's learn how to create it, and we will teach you that. So the wisdom of Kabbalah is the method of connection. It is the method by which we create these connections, these ties between us. Out of them, the more we create more tight connections in 125 degrees, out of which we came down, we cascaded. That way we come back to the revelation of the Creator, the revelation of the upper system. And there you'll see what phenomena take place. First of all, what we talked about, the pleasure and the desire. One doesn't quench the other, because I'm connected to everyone, 7 billion people. There was a great Kabbalist, Rav Kook. Remember he said,
I wish I could be able to put the entire humanity into one body. This will be able to embrace them all.
I wish I could put all of humanity into a single body and be able to embrace them. Why? Let me feel everybody's deficiencies and I'll pass through them the fulfillment, the abundance, and from that we get something even greater, because the fulfillment itself and the connection between us and the pleasure and the deficiencies, those are only tools, instruments. As we said earlier, what do we want to get to in the end? Connection is a means. Don't be mistaken about it. We connect between us not in order to be beautiful towards one another. People tried that before. It never worked because they lacked the most important, sublime component in this formula. We connect between us in order to reach equivalence of form with the Creator. This is what we want. That is the sublime goal for which we have the whole order of the roots and laws and all the incidents of this world, one by one. Everything that happened to us in our lives is only for one thing, so that we will want a connection with the Creator.
Meaning the connection between us, as we gave the example before with the radio receiver. So the connection actually is the receiver or this dial, and this frequency that we start hearing, that music, that is the Creator.
Yeah, and what do we lack in order to have that? Just a method for how to do it. And I want to, bring another kind of angle for this. That in general, the whole of creation is arranged in a way that there are elements that connect and create the next degree, which is higher, qualitatively higher. Quarks connect into additional particles, and then they create atoms, and atoms connect into molecules, and molecules connect into cells, and cells create the still and vegetative and the animate. And if we look at our body, so I'm looking at Tal is not just some bag of cells, some incidental collection of cells that happen to be together. Rather, the moment these elements unite, connect according to a certain formula of the upper system, meaning that every cell gives what it can to the whole of the body, and it takes for itself whatever it needs to be in order to exist. From that form, a new awareness is created. It's not just a collection of cells, but Tal, right? And if all of us connect, just like cell in the body, we create a new awareness, and we discover that thing called Boré, Creator. We come back to our source, and then there is endless pleasure. One doesn't turn off the other. It is pleasure which is eternal. We can, each one of us, feel the deficiencies of everyone, which never end. All the more so, may they be greater and increase more and more. Why? Because then I have additional opportunity to be the bestower, an opportunity to be the one who loves. And in that, a greater opportunity to be connected to the upper force. In the end, those are just words, but in the end, and you'll see it from the very first moment, we'll all meet, I promise you, in some special congress, which will be the first congress that all of us will come to, and we will start feeling these things there with very simple, natural methods. Suddenly we'll start feeling, whoa, it's true. This is what you call light? This is connection? This is togetherness? We will see that the moment that we will reach that feeling, those words will become into truth, into one.
So I have to say something, some deficiency of Mehdi from France, who says the following. The more I feel my desire to be spiritual, I feel closer and more connected to all the creatures, but I also feel myself more isolated. Does it mean that I have to keep on by myself?
Please, go ahead. We wanted to explain it today. We said that we're going to talk today about love and oppositeness, and we didn't know if to do it or not.
I don't think we should get into it, because we will talk about it more in the next lessons, but we've illustrated here what Kabbalists write about very decisively, that a person discovers himself throughout history as a social creature. And this is not in vain. It's like a fish in a flock of fish, or school of fish, or a flock of birds. We live in tribes, in families, in more and more complicated structures according to the growth of our desire, but we live social life. And Baal Sulam writes in the piece, in the article of the piece, it is impossible to implement the wisdom of Kabbalah, meaning it is impossible to reach the revelation of the Creator without being connected to other people. If I will now go and climb some mountain, spend there the rest of my life, breathe slowly, eat little, or if I will go to live in the jungle like Robinson Crusoe, or live on some island, will I reach spirituality? Perhaps, and this is exactly it, perhaps I will have very deep, very profound emotions of being united with nature. But here, there is a question. Is that the spirituality we should reach? And true spirituality is built upon the rejection that we have, that is revealed to us, the difficulty that we have in this life that we need to live. Kabbalists are very practical people, and they know how to bring a person to discover spirituality and to living with both feet on the ground. And it is very, very important. That is the main point, which is to find the balance, which is called the middle line between life that we live here and now in this world, in this body, with this character, with such desires, with everything that we have, and at the same time to develop the soul, the connection between us in which I discovered the Creator. If there is no we, there is no Creator. Me, for myself, I will be confused 100%. Therefore, the connection and the love for the others and work between people is, as Baal Sulam writes, it will keep you from mistakes. You cannot be mistaken. I feel that I don't feel like connecting to someone else, someone stranger than me, faraway culture. But if I will do that, and the wisdom of Kabbalah will teach me that it is done in my inner attitude, and I don't have to go too far, not in actions, in my hands, with my legs. We'll talk about it more. So we actually discovered that, he's actually like my brother. How can it be? He seemed so far away from me, and in that revelation there is a new degree of gratitude and merging with the wholeness of the upper force of nature in higher and higher degrees.
And here I want to focus on the difference between Kabbalah and other systems or methods. In the beginning of our lesson today, we talked about two forces, the force of reception and the force of bestowal. And the wisdom of Kabbalah, reception, is a natural wisdom that uses both of them. And it says that just as the Creator, and we read that quotation in the earlier lesson, wanted to give pleasure to the souls, to benefit to them with his full abundance, which is infinite, so he has to also create a desire and a deficiency which is infinite. What is that deficiency? There are methods like Amit mentioned where I can go into some cave and to stop eating and detach from people, and then slowly I turn off my ego and maybe I feel something, some phenomena. But that's not the goal of creation. The goal is that I will first of all feel my desire. That's my desire. It's burning. What does it want to receive? To receive from all other people. Well, at least in the beginning, I'll take advantage of those close to me. And if I learn how, in the present degree, I connect with ties of love above this desire, then suddenly the next degree opens up for me, an even bigger desire, more burning, more egoistic. Right? And we, as if we're talking about kilograms, I want even more, I yearn even more. And even above that, I put what Kabbalists call, they call that correction a masach, a screen. We're going to learn about that correction, and then a bigger and bigger correction, desire, until we have this huge desire, and the extent of it is the extent of the Creator. So we attain the full measure of the Creator. So if we detach one of these two forces, let's say we would detach this one, we wouldn't feel anything here. Again, I would only feel myself. That desire is comprised of connections that keep growing between everyone. But we'll talk about that more. However, we have to realize one thing only, that the wisdom of Kabbalah is a wisdom that uses all the elements, everything that was created, all the different forces, so that above the growing desire and the good relationships that stem from the point in my heart, the part that is called a divine part from above, I build something new, something which is independent, the created being, which is only has a different vector, yearning to a connection with the Creator. That's all we need, nothing more. Tal, any questions?
I want to add something important here. I don't want the students... Well, this is a very important point in the Wisdom Kabbalah. Because the Wisdom Kabbalah is working with everything that was created in the will to receive, Bala Sulam writes about it, will talk about it, about the measurement of uniqueness in the article, the peace in the world. Nothing was created in vain. Nothing is wrong. And we shouldn't do anything artificially. No change. Rather, we will see that the wisdom of Kabbalah, dealing with it, studying it, naturally will change a person. And it does it softly, eternally, from within, in the level of attitude and relationship. And if I meditate, it's excellent. If I like eating meat, if I'm vegetarian, excellent. If I like women, men, it doesn't matter. Everything is fine. There is no tendency that should be destroyed or restricted or to do anything about it in this world in order to achieve spirituality. No, spirituality is above our world. We will learn about it. We will talk about it the next lesson. Spirituality is above our world. It's above our senses. It's a different matter. It's a different world. It's a different place. Therefore, everything that I have contact with here in our world is some kind of phenomenon. It is a result. It is not a root. There is nothing to correct here. I will have to learn how to reach the root. By the wisdom of Kabbalah, we come to the roots, and then we see, this is such and such consequence. Perhaps it should be something else. Perhaps the behavior should be different, but only out of achieving the root itself. Therefore, everything is fine. Everything that we do and everything that a person is engaged with is exactly what he's supposed to do in order to now scrutinize and find his true way, true path to the Creator.
I propose that now, having talked about all of these things, the connections between us that are comprised of a deficiency and fulfillment and pleasure and love, let's do a short summary and let's watch a clip with Rav Leitman that explains all of these things with such simplicity and in such a natural way that you just feel it.
Rav Leitman, do you know about him?
Tell us a little bit about him.
Rav Dr. Michael Leitman is the teacher of us all. We don't really know the true number of the points in the hearts that have discovered the wisdom of Kabbalah through him, but we're talking about millions. And today they're spread out all around the world, and they suckle the wisdom and the light through him. He was the student and the follower of Rav Baruch Shalom Ashlag, who was the son of Bala Sulam. And these three Kabbalists, two of them are not with us anymore in this corporal world. And Rav, may he live a long life. They take this whole ancient method of thousands of years, and they made it simple and accessible to us. Rav Lightman, he teaches close to 40, 35 years, every morning, every day. He starts his day at 1:30 a.m. and he studies regularly the wisdom of Kabbalah from 3 a.m. And everything that we have and the friends in Europe and all around the world comes through him. And we can see a small example from the morning lesson, and that will perhaps reflect a certain interaction of Rav Lightman with his students, right?
Out of the fact that you have invested forces in the previous degree,
This is the wrong clip. This is the wrong clip.
Sorry, this is a clip of Rav from a recently, but we have another one about
It's
what
a
love
clip
is.
what love is.
Do we have the clip? We're asking the broadcast people now. Do we have the clip of Rav explaining about the taste of love?
So we will be left with a deficiency.
But it's also a good opportunity to say something else about Rav Lightman, that for skeptical people like myself, who don't quite believe in those kinds of things, when we hear it from stories, the moment that I discovered the wisdom of Kabbalah when I was in Italy, when I started reading, I didn't see any lesson. But then I heard a lesson in which Rav Lightman explains about the desire. And I remember it got hold of me suddenly. Nothing ever grabbed me like that. Suddenly, my jaw just dropped. What? What is it he said? I went back to the media player, and again I heard that, and whoa, more and more I was moved, I was excited, and again. This thing after... I just decided to come here. I decided my place is here, and these people that are staying with him, I just felt this inner sensation that this is my family. And when we work with Rav Lightman, relatively on a daily basis, we get to meet him to talk and think about how to convey this connection, this good to everyone. We start seeing before our eyes a concrete example of all of these things, of bestowal and love and a mind that comes from a very different degree, a different level. It's something amazing. We're not saying that anyone is holy or, making somebody into a saint, but we have still an opportunity in this life to study from a Kabbalist, to meet him, and all of us will meet him in some congress that we're going to have in the future, and to start feeling a connection with a man who has already gone through this transformation, and he feels this reality already. If anybody wants, we have programs in our websites with him called New Life, in which he talks about how, in general, from the angle of the wisdom of Kabbalah, how we can reach connection in all the different aspects of life. And as Amit said, every day he gives us a daily lesson for 3 hours in a row that opens up the attainment of the upper system. This is 3 a.m. to 6 a.m. every day, Israel time. So all of us have an opportunity now for a connection with this great teacher, Rav Lightman, a great Kabbalist who is really bestowing to everyone. We can have complete lessons, I think, just about Rav.
Perhaps we will.
But you have a question mark on you, Tal?
Really, thank you, everyone. But still, about the connection, Darina from Bulgaria is asking, Bulgaria, why do we feel love towards certain people and why don't we feel it towards other people?
There is an example that Rabash, the teacher of Rav Lightman, gives. He says that there's a son of some mother and there's a son of their neighbor, and both of them have this stain, that they have here, right here on the cheek. They have this obvious stain from birth. When a mother looks at her child and she loves him very much, does she see this thing? She doesn't even notice it. Can't even tell it's there. But when she looks at the son of her neighbor who has the same thing, does she see it? Does she notice it? Oh, you can bet it really stands out, right? Crying out loud. So we love people. We want to relate well to them if they fill me up. I am a friend of people who have a certain qualities, intelligence, beauty. They, encourage me, that make me feel good inside of my desire, and others that apparently right now I can't quite see how they can be beneficial to me, how can they support me or love me. Again, we're not disqualifying anything, we're just trying to explain to you the way the program, the software works, by which I'm now in contact with others. It might be that after I will develop further and further the part of the soul in me, the point in the heart, I'll start having a particular connection with all people and an even stronger connection with certain people. And the connections will start resembling those that are in the upper system.
So there's someone who's very thirsty for such connections. His name is Christian. He's from Italy, and he says this: how can we start this social process? How can we start it? And he's so grateful, and he says, "You're amazing."
Who more? Did he say that?
In English, you is plural.
Okay, I guess he means that the connection between us is amazing, not us.
Well, first of all, the answer is we will give you short answers so that we will be able to give as many questions as possible with the time that we have left. One, we already started building this social system. It's happening. This is the third lesson where it's taking place. So we will see, we will feel, and we will also learn that that system exists with us, within us, and we build it and we develop it by the very fact that you now, slowly, are sitting, are watching us, connecting to us, and between you and we with you and all of us together, we're building that social system together. The question is how to keep on developing it between the lessons. This is an excellent question. We have to do it both inside, and we also have means that this world had granted us also from the Creator. Like, for instance, Facebook.
So we actually have a Facebook for our group. For every language, we have a separate Facebook, actually, Italian, English, and today we want to add another possibility, another opportunity. So let's see if together we can actually challenge the European reality. Usually languages separate us, cultures. The Italians don't like the French don't like the German, I don't know, whatever. Although everyone seems to love the French for some reason. But let's add another Facebook page to our lives, meaning so far each one of us had his own page in his own language, and we can continue being there, but let's add another page. A page of the general Facebook for all the students from all over Europe. We are going to send you this invitation in your emails to each and every one. Where is this page? We'll tell you. We will invite you in the Facebook pages. We'll give you the address. Amit and I will start visiting there, and all of us will start being in a single system where we start getting to know one another, and we will see. And we can tell you that based on our experience of several years, that inside this system of Facebook, we will start creating different connections. We will start feeling one another. Okay? So we're inviting you to enter our collective Facebook group, where all of us will be together. We can have questions. And
we can continue the usual
Yeah, we can
place.
also continue with the Facebook pages that are in my language, but in addition to the Facebook page in my own language, I have another Facebook page I can enter. Okay?
John from England is asking, how will we know what are the right relationship between us and how do they look us? Can we know that?
Well, we're so inspired from these questions. I don't know what to say about it.
We're not in the stage yet where we can measure how we treat others in an empiric way. But we're headed this place. This is the whole essence of the wisdom Kabbalah. We start studying how to measure the relationship between us, the emotions. It is called Sfirot. Parzufim. We will learn about it in the second semester when we will have more internal discernments, when we will have a physical congress and a connection between us, when we will have better relationship through Facebook. But meanwhile, we can do some exercises and to see how much I think about others, think about the path, feel the changing relationship between me and those means which are related to this path. I think about those people who are on this path with me in my country, in Europe in general, about the teachers, about Kabbalists, about books, to which extent and which manner. Try to look at it if it's there and to which extent it is there during your daily life.
Moving on. Christian from Hamburg is asking, should I connect with others, or can I study or attain or discover the Creator by myself? Listen, Christian, I don't know at what stage you asked that question, maybe in the beginning of the lesson, or but I'll answer you maybe in a different way. Look, we just talked about the Facebook group, yours in Germany, or the collective general Facebook group that we are going to open. Now, you don't have to be there actively, you know. You can be there passively and study, and that's fine. You, like others, you don't have to now be all shook up and drive everyone crazy. You can just attend there, be there. And gradually, out of the study, out of the lessons that we're going to have together, out of the fact that I can really suggest that there's a very interesting website full of materials, and there's a book in German that thick with all of the Kabbalists' most important articles called Kabbalah for the Beginner. You can download any of our books freely in any language. I suggest just start reading, start being present in the Facebook environment, and check what is happening to your desire. And we'll talk in a few lessons, and you'll tell me what do you feel like, what do you think about it.
Another questions about love.
Last question.
It's a shame.
Yeah, nothing we can do about it. Well, maybe one more.
Is love controlled by the mind or by the heart? That mind and that heart? Probably. So we remind you that the wisdom of Kabbalah does not speak about this world at all and does not deal with these bodies at all. Ask a scientist, a researcher, a doctor, a physiologist, they will all tell you the same thing. We are very sophisticated, very special machines working on matrix of proteins, electricity, electrolytes, but that's it. Now, where is the soul? Where is the desire? Where can we feel love in the connections between the neurons? Where can we find it? That is a question that is being researched by many, but no one had discovered the answer for it yet. We will have a whole lesson about it. The senses are revealed in 5 senses, but the phenomena, they all come from spiritual worlds. This is where the forces come down to us. This is where we want to reach. And the true love is not felt in my present brain or heart of mind, this pump of mind that flows blood into the body. Rather, it is felt in a new dimension, in a new space, in something that is built between us, okay? It's a kind of a virtual level. There is something that is built that unites us all, and this is where we live. This is something new that is born, something completely new, which is not you or me. This is something else, something new. And this is where it all happens.
And very final question, if we have one.
It is so hard to choose.
You don't know what to choose, huh?
How do we develop a daily kind of love? even if we don't believe in it yet. We ask ourselves, is there real love in this world? So how do we develop such love from day to day?
So please don't be confused. We are not going to start hugging trees or even hugging one another, and you don't have to write to anyone, I love you, you're wonderful. No. Everything is fine. We simply have to be very natural, meaning whatever I have now, whatever I feel right now, is absolutely fine. At a more advanced stage, we will also see that we work with all of these things, and we can also do things even though we have something different on the inside. We're going to see all of these things. Right now, at this point, lesson number 3, it doesn't matter, if somebody is passing me, I can honk,
That is if you're in Italy.
Yes, if I'm in Italy. Everything is fine. Let's just add one thing to our lives right now. Reading a few articles, as much as I can, hearing some lesson, some program, watching some program, start accumulating certain contents, and try to be in those Facebook pages that we talked about. All right? Now, we simply have to finish. I just want to say one thing. We want you to send throughout the week inside of the local or the general Facebook group, because in the general one it's going to be translated, and in the local one it's going to be translated and moved on to the general page. Any questions, anything that wasn't clear to you this week, we want to add another half an hour that will be recorded of questions and answers that came from you. We're going to answer your questions. And I talked to Amit
because we don't have enough time to answer all your questions, so we want to have more time for it and to have a sessions of questions and answers.
Okay, we'll have a marathon of Q&A. And
I want to conclude with a quote. The question how to develop a daily life, this is a question of Bala Sulam. So I think that's the best way to end this lesson with one of the quotes of Bala Sulam in one of his letters to his students, that our whole life is to disclose the love among us every day anew. Can we do that? We will discover every day anew.
Goodbye, friends.
It was a pleasure.